Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86 East End of Listowel, our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course, the Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan Drury here. Clarkey's going to join us in a little bit here. There's a lot to touch on, including the Leafs. Our buddy Steve Dangle is going to join us, tell us all about his trip to Sweden. But first, we got to talk to a local athlete about another great trip that he just returned from, and a guy who plays right here in town in Listowel for the Listowel Cyclones, but he wasn't playing hockey. He was away in Hermosillo, Mexico, representing Canada for softball at the U18 Men's World Cup. Very pleased to be joined by Alex McGillivray. Alex, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Obviously, a fun trip down there and a great experience for yourself, made even sweeter by the fact that Team Canada came back with a bronze medal draped around all your necks. Tell us a little bit about what the experience was like down there, man.
I mean, it was awesome. I haven't really done anything like it before, except for we went to Colombia a couple weeks before that, but it wasn't quite as big, so it was a little more nerve-wracking than usual going into a tournament.
Now, obviously, you guys go down there and you've kind of had an interesting experience being obviously a very talented dual sport athlete. I don't know if you can play more than two at this high a level, but it's incredible you can do one, let alone play junior B hockey and play high level softball. But you got to have a bit of a unique experience as well with a guy right next to you that is on the bench in the Cyclones as well. And that's Danny Scott. It's pretty rare that you see two guys from around the same area get to play one of these sports at a high level, but to have both of you guys be hockey teammates and now softball teammates, that had to be a pretty special experience for you and Mr. Scott.
Yeah, it was awesome. It kind of feels like we're following each other around for the last couple of years. I just see him everywhere I go right now. But yeah, it's awesome. He's a good kid.
Now, obviously, you're playing for the Cyclones, and the team is off to a great start. Little slow out of the gate in terms of goal scoring, but you guys were the best defensive team. You remain the best defensive team, and now you guys are really, really rolling. You sit atop the power rankings for the league, and you guys are cruising right now. So before we touch on softball and everything that went so well for Team Canada down there in terms of the hockey side of things, what's going so well for the Sykes right now? Because you guys are chugging, man.
I mean, we're pulling in a lot of good guys right now. I think everyone's just doing their part and carrying the torch like they should be. So we're following our systems pretty well right now from what I've seen. And I think it's all just going really smoothly.
Now, obviously, you've come out of, the Hanover Barons program. I know you're a Durham native. And, of course, your dad, who's a pretty legendary guy in the local hockey scene from back in his playing days. A bit of a legacy there. What's that been like for you and for him, I'm sure, and the rest of your family to watch your continuing hockey journey on top of this great softball achievement, too? What's that been like?
I mean, it was awesome, especially in Hanover. It was cool because my dad's name's in the dressing room on the wall of fame there. So it was cool going out and seeing his name there, just trying to continue on his legacy there and try to do as well as he did. But don't think I did quite as well as he did, but tried my best.
Yeah, he set a pretty high bar back in his Barons days. That's for sure. But you're doing a pretty darn good job yourself, and you're carving out a pretty impressive junior career. And now, obviously, softball included. When did you know when you were younger, because you're still a young guy, when did you know that you had this level of talent in multiple sports? And when did you kind of start dipping your toe into both of them at a high level? Because it takes a lot of commitment.
I mean, as a kid, I was more into hockey, played baseball a little bit, nothing too major in that, the softball. But growing up, I kind of just would go into a sport and would just have a lot of fun and noticed that I was doing pretty well at both. So went into softball a bit more as well there and just kind of continued on doing both. And it's just kept going uphill so far. It's pretty good.
I would say so. And Canada had a great round robin portion of the tournament, and then you guys make it into the bronze medal game. And well, let's just talk about it, because you had your fingerprints all over that game, didn't you? You're trailing 1-0 to the United States, the bitter rivals, of course, in softball and hockey, and I would say most sports. And it's the 6th inning. You guys are trailing, and you step up to the plate, and you launched a moonshot out of that park, man. And we have visual of it. It was absolutely incredible. You knew it was gone right when you hit it. What was that experience like, stepping up to the plate in that kind of atmosphere, in that kind of clutch moment, and absolutely crushing a ball? What was that like?
I was really nervous at the start. Didn't really have a plan going into it. I chased the high rise the first pitch, and then I tried to lay a bunt down and missed that second pitch. So I was down 0-2 in the count. So I was kind of really nervous I was going to strike out, but kind of just got the bat out on the third one and got a good piece of it.
Yeah, I'd say you got a pretty good piece of it, because it left the park in a hurry. We're looking at it now. I mean, that thing is gone. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great thing that you're going to be able to review and watch forever. You can show your kids this someday. I mean, you smoked that thing. Look at all the guys running out of the dugout. What was that like when you're rounding third and you see all the guys out there waiting for you? That had to feel pretty darn good.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best feelings I've had in my sports career so far. Rounding third, I had so much butterflies in my stomach. Just couldn't stop smiling. It was good. Seeing everyone on the team was really happy, so it was fun.
Obviously, you know, the game ends 2-1. You were all the offense they needed, and you guys clinch a bronze medal. What was it like to represent your country at that type of level and have a medal at a tournament like this draped around your neck? What did that feel like? It must have been pretty darn, a pretty darn proud moment for yourself and your teammates.
Yeah, I was really proud of myself and my teammates, but especially like coming home after getting my service back in Canada and just my phone blowing up from texts from my family and my friends, bosses, all of that. It was awesome. They were all really proud.
As they should be. It was a heck of a performance. Now, I want to ask you a couple things just about both sports, because you're obviously, I'd call you an expert in both of them because of how well you play them. Obviously, you're a really talented offensive player when it comes to the ice. Are there any guys that you've ever tried to kind of look at and take bits out of their game and model the way you play after? Does anybody come to mind when I ask you that?
I like watching Nathan McKinnon growing up. He was good in every aspect of his game, I thought, defensively, offensively, just a really good player in general. So kind of modeled it after him.
When did you know you could shoot the puck the way you can? Because you're not a very big guy, but you've got a low center of gravity. And I noticed right away when I first saw you playing for Hanover, you can really let go of that thing. Your dad had a good shot too. I've heard all about it from a number of different people. It seems like it was passed on. You got a heater, man. Like, when did you start realizing, boy, my shot looks a little different than all the other kids that I'm playing with?
I mean, in Hanover, I think I started noticing it there because my dad was really chirping me about trying to do as well as he did and made it a competition. So I was always out practicing, making sure I could improve and really improve my shot that year. I thought not quite as good as his, but
you're humble, man. Yeah, I understand. You got to pump Jim's tires here. I'm sure he'll watch this and be giving you a little rib shot there. Yeah, absolutely. Pay respect to your elders. I like it. In terms of softball, which, is something that, your dad really didn't get to experience, not at the level you have. I mean, I think that this is the ultimate ace up your sleeve. You can pull that bronze medal and go, but look at this. Are there any baseball players that you've loved watching growing up over the years?
I didn't watch a lot of baseball growing up, to be honest, but there's some locals like Ty Sebastian. He's an amazing ball player. So kind of watched him in Durham a couple of times playing for the Dodgers. He was fun to watch, so I'd probably say him.
That's not a bad answer. And Ty actually, funnily enough, was on the show last week. So I like that answer a lot. Alex, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got to practice to get to. And if there's anybody we don't want to upset in Midwestern Ontario, it's Listowel Cyclones head coach Jesse Cole. All right. So if you are late, you can blame me. He knows where I live. I'm sure I'll be in trouble. But we really appreciate you doing this, man. Say hi to your dad. And hey, again, congratulations on the bronze medal, man. It's an accomplishment you should be really, really proud of. And I'm looking forwad to seeing you over at the Steve Kerr Memorial sometime soon, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. All
right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, like I said, Clarkey and I will be chatting with Steve Dangle about his trip over to Sweden. That's next on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture, our friends over at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course our friends at the Listowel Squash Courts. More on them later because I have breaking news to share with Clarkey. And speaking of Clarkey, he's here, back from the balmy beaches of Jamaica, and he's here to welcome on a very special friend of the show. We've had this guy on plenty. He's always so gracious with his time, especially right now. The jet lag's there. Just back from a trip to Sweden to watch the Eras Tour of William Nylander, the rock star himself. Steve Dangle joins us. Dangle, how are you, man?
I am lovely. Lovely. I was trying to think of the Swedish word for lovely, but I learned very little while I was there, other than the pizza and beer is just incredible. Just incredible over there.
Really?
How about
now, like, okay, I'm just going to say it. How are the women in Sweden? Like, are they all blonde and blue eyes? Because that's the, that's what you think.
I kept telling everyone that every single picture I took in Sweden, like with a fan, they were taller than I was.
Oh, yeah.
Every single one. And anytime I was like, oh, finally. And like, I would even say to them, oh, someone who's my height or someone who's a little shorter. They'd be like, yeah, well, I'm visiting from the Czech Republic, or yeah, I'm visiting from Germany. Or so like literally you could spot a tourist from a mile away without hearing them say a word. Like, oh yeah, this one's under 6 feet tall and sort of overweight. Like he's probably not from here. And yeah, his name is Steve.
Unbelievable. Yeah, they're all beanstalks over there, man. They got the Ibrahimovic gene or something. It's incredible stuff. Here's the most burning question, though, that I have for you, Steve, and it's the most important one. Did you make it into IKEA?
No, but I got the meatballs twice to go maximum stereotypes.
Swedish meatballs. Right,
Swedish meatballs with the mashed potatoes, gravy, the pickles, and the lingonberry.
Can't you get that at like Islington and Queensway in Toronto, like at the IKEA?
Yeah, I don't know about the pickles.
But at Sweden or in Sweden, it's almost as good. Okay. So, it was almost as good. It was pretty good. I made it into the you'll like this one, Clarkey. I made it into the Djurgården store. So I got a Sundin Djurgården jersey.
I thought his speech before the first game was just so touching. I nearly fell asleep.
Hey, you be kind to Mats. We're lucky we got him at all.
I like Mats, but like, oh my gosh, like that was not a very inspiring speech. And how do you say it? Jarnkrok?
Jarnkrok.
No, but that's not what he said. It was a hard J. Jarnkrok. I'm like, who? Who's this player? Jarnkrok. Anyway.
So the Swedes were all very accommodating, but there was one thing you could tell they drew a line in the sand about, and that was, while you are here, you will pronounce our damn names correctly. Peter Forsberg is not a person during the duration of this tournament. It's Forsberg.
Really?
That is how you... Forsberg. That's how you say it.
But is it really Jarnkrok? Is that how you say his name? Or does Matt just not know? Does he just not know? I have a feeling.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to not know on account of like Sundin's been in witness protection since he retired, basically. But
pretty much,
yeah. Except like he showed up for the banner and then goodbye. I was just surprised to see him at all. So that was cool.
I was sort of expecting Thomas Caberlet to step in for him.
Well, there were a number of obscure Leafs there.
Was there? Who was there?
Well, so I don't know if it made the broadcast. But it's funny how many of the Swedish legends were on camera for the whole crowd. They were just sort of like like get me off camera right away.
Like who? Like Michael Telkvist, was he there?
Henrik Zetterberg was not happy with being on camera. Neither was Marcus Naslund. Michael Telkvist was on camera, and everyone, you're not going to believe this, lost their mind at Michael Telkvist, and a favorite of my era from when I was at Leafs TV, Clarkey, the Monster was there. Jonas Gustafsson was in the building.
Nice. I actually have his blocker. I use his blocker.
No way.
I knew the Bauer rep, right? So I have actually James Reimer's upper body gear, and I have the Monsters blocker, and I use it every day. That's
hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when David Ayres beat the Leafs, I believe he used.
Who was that? David?
It was
erase that from my mind, man.
Yeah, it was either Casimir Kaski-Swo or Antoine Bibeau's goalie gear.
Really?
He used. Yeah,
I remember them saying that.
It was Marley stuff, right? It was
Marley stuff. Yeah, and a mask. His mask was cracked by a one-timer from Zach Hyman in practice, and he wore it during an NHL game and won. Sorry, the other Leaf I saw. You just reminded me, Jonas Höglund. I saw him.
14. The great number 14.
Great number 14.
Jonas Höglund. How
he played with Sundin. He played on Sundin's line.
He played left wing with Sundin, and for a period of time, the diminutive demon himself, Sergei Berezin.
Oh man, he was on so many good lines. He was on the incredible line. I think it was Sundin, Höglund, and Mariusz Czerkawski, the Polish prince.
Oh yeah.
I remember there were some lines.
Did the Leafs send like Wendell over or anything like that? Did he go?
Oh, I'm surprised they sent their players over. To be honest, it's funny. The players were really good about. Oh no, we're having lots of fun here.
Yeah,
this is great.
Were the wives there?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, you couldn't tell because Nylander brought so many family. And they all look the same, and it's just a bunch of hockey players surrounded by blondes. You're like, well, I don't know.
See, Sweden. That's what I said in the first place. They're all blondes.
You weren't sure, but I don't think anyone hated being in Sweden more than Sheldon Keefe. That guy,
really?
Oh man, he made it known.
Really?
Well, I mean, like it might have kind of wrecked Klingberg's season. And I guess we'll get to that.
That'd be too bad.
But he was just kept talking about how hard it was and the sleep and everything. But like even Nick Robertson, like he sort of made a joke of it. Because I asked him about his ear. I got to go in the locker room, and he said it was recovering well, but like sleeping was murder. Like imagine sleeping on your side and your ear split open. How many pillowcases has that guy gone through over the last couple of weeks? But they came up with 4 points, and I think any coach in the league will be happy about that.
So outside of hockey and outside of the Swedish meatballs, what was the best part about Sweden?
Oh, well, okay. First of all, their transit system kicks the TTC's butt. I want to find who made the TTC and throw hands with them immediately after having gone to Stockholm. You know what? I did not expect to meet very many people who knew who I was or watch my videos or podcast or anything. I mean,
you're a star, man.
It's Europe.
A star. Someone said that. You're a star.
We did a meetup, and there were like 100 people. And then after the Minnesota game, we did a meetup. Obviously storybook ending with Nylander, and I filmed the LFR video, the post-game video, outside of the building, and there were like 100 people there, and it was like a live interactive audience, which I've never done before. That's one of
I watched it.
There you go.
Leafs.
There you go.
Amazing.
Win.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was one of my top 5, top 10 favorite videos I've ever done. So that was a huge highlight for me. That and being at a press conference with NHL credentials through SDPN, because we tried for a long time to even get them to respond to our emails, and then they finally did. But like now we're in the ecosystem, right? Like even if we don't get the next event, maybe we'll get the next one. They know who we are. We were good boys and well behaved, and
cool.
That was a nice little feather in the cap moment.
Yeah, for sure. Instigating is going to be at the next one, so
hell yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Well, I can get us up into the booth in Guelph, Clarkey, if you want.
Perfect.
You can catch some Guelph Storm, bug George Burnett for a bit. No, it's fantastic. And Steve, you deserve it, man. You guys have been working hard for a long time. You in particular, of course. And I had a great time watching you over there, man. It looked like a lot of fun. And speaking of fun, we've mentioned it a couple times here. That Wild Bill Nylander kid. Boy, is he having a good time, eh? Like, have you ever seen a start to a Leaf season from an individual player like this? I mean, it has been quite historic, and literally the guy just, everything he touches is turning literally to gold.
It's, I'm trying to think of how to say this and have it not be insulting, but like, I can't think of a start to the season like this from someone who's not supposed to be the Leafs' best player. Like, he's a star, he makes good money and everything, but like, we don't expect this of him, right? We don't expect him to be leading the team in scoring. Like, Matthews is not playing poorly either. Like, sometimes a guy gets hurt and someone has to, pick up the torch. Matthews has maybe been a bit streaky, but he's still at I think he's at 15 goals now. 14 or 15 because he had one in the Minnesota game. But Nylander is absolutely smashing it. And think of how many times in recent memory the Leafs have buckled in the moment. That whole event was basically designed with William Nylander at the center of it. That sounds arrogant and pro-Leaf and whatever, but like, Lucas Raymond got applause, and it was good. And Anton Forsberg had a win, and it was the first regular season win in Sweden, and people went, woo! They were happy about it. Nylander ties the game in the Detroit game, and everyone came undone. And he, in the final game out of the 4, overtime winner, solo effort, like, pay that man his money. I wasn't team pay Willie in the off season, but he hadn't done this, like, he was extremely good last year, but the amount of money he was asking for was delusional based on what guys had signed for. And now through nearly 20 games, he's been one of the best players in the league. Like, what else do you want?
Can I refer to him as a power forward? Because I did this week and I got looked at sideways, but like, this guy drives to the net. He's like, I don't know.
Modern power forward. Like,
yeah,
the days of Todd Bertuzzi are done. Lindros. Could you throw? Lindros, obviously, even Sundin. Like, could you throw a Jerome McGinley in there?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, sure.
He might even be old modern power forward, and now we got modern power forward. I mean, Nylander. The conversation at the beginning of the season had a lot to do with team toughness. And, I don't expect Matthews with all the surgically repaired wrists to drop the gloves. And I don't expect Marner to do it because I think he'd get mashed into mush. But like, Nylander, I think, would be like pretty formidable, man. Like, that guy, he's got the Viking build. Like, he's thick. He's kind of hairy. He's just, I just don't know if he has a mean bone in his body. He's just extremely competitive. So if it came down to it, he could kick your butt, but I mean, he rose to the occasion. It was incredible.
Here's the question: how are we going to fit him in here?
Yeah, where are we at here? Make this make sense for me, Steve, because man, the rumors are flying.
Well,
next year's the problem, because as you've said, the swappy doodle doo or whatever you called it.
That's right, swappy doodle doo.
That's an effect, but not for another year.
Yeah. So for those of you not familiar with the swappy doodle doo, it's basically Tavares and Nylander switch cap hits when Tavares is up. Now, that is very optimistic, and it also involves a year of extreme pain, which is next year, where the cap goes up by something like $3 or $4 million, which is not enough to accommodate Willie making $10 or $11 million, along with Mitch, along with Austin, along with John. it's possible to move off of Mitch, but he has a full no move, and it's difficult to picture him wanting to welcome a move like that. But those no move clauses are rarely they're rarely enforced in full. You know what I mean? Like Dodonov enforced his because he didn't want to go to the Ducks. Well, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Torrey Krug enforced his because he didn't want to go to the Flyers. Well, yeah, fair enough. But, if you send a guy to a good situation, I believe Patrick Kane had the full no move, and he basically used it to,
dictate.
Did he try to stay in Chicago? No, he just wanted to dictate where he was going to go. Most players in this league are not going to stay where they're not wanted, right? Which is a wild thing to say about a guy who was nominated for the Selke last year, right? So, I don't really see a way you can make it work. Like you already have one of the cheapest goalie tandems in the league. Like, what are you going to have, 2 entry-level guys? And even if you had 2 guys on sub-$1 million deals, which is possible, it would only free up like $2.5 million. So, it's probably going to involve moving Mitch in the offseason.
Do you think
it very well could?
Do you think Dubas was going to move Mitch before he got? You do, eh?
100%.
Really?
Well, he mentioned breaking up the Big Four, and then was fired days later. But he's the only one who made sense. Like,
I agree. I've said it all along. He's the guy.
It's not even he's because he's bad. Like, Matthews is the superstar. Tavares, I love, but like at his age, he doesn't have nearly the value that Marner does. And you probably could have got the most for Nylander, but the reason for that is because he was on a value contract. And if you're the Leafs and you're perennially up against the cap, why on earth would you get rid of a contract like that? I suppose it's possible Willie walks, but I mean, can you fire a GM after just a year? I just don't think you can let that happen. No, you can't let that happen.
Well, it would be very wild because of what just happened to that guy in Calgary, right? Like, those 2 guys leave, and I don't feel like he would want to get into a mix-up where he lets something like that happen again.
Trading Mitch Marner is a franchise-altering move.
Yep.
And they made it so that Dubas couldn't do it because he was fired. And Treliving, I'm sure, tried to, or at very least looked at it. But like, that's a career-defining trade as soon as you get there.
Exactly.
And I just think it's such a recipe for failure.
Yep.
I don't blame him for not doing it. And I'm sure no team was willing to give him a great deal because they knew there was a ticking clock there. And you got to plan for the next year. And he probably said, okay, I can put all my effort into trading this player, or I can keep this team that ought to be a contender. It hasn't been, but ought to be a contender. And I could try to figure it out and kick that can down the road a year. And that's what he did. I don't blame him.
Okay, so it'll be interesting because, like, you remember, and you're right, it would be a career-defining one given the status of Mitch, what he's done. Look, the guy gets his cookies. Like, he gets a lot of points. Selke finalist last year. Yeah, he's a hell of a good player.
Yeah.
I'd almost liken the situation if he were to move. Remember those Flyers teams of the early 2010s, and they get to the Cup final against Chicago, they lose. And then a couple years later, Paul Holmgren decides heading into that 2011-12 season, with a lot of weird rumors going around about these 2 guys. They didn't want to commit to a dry island thing. He decides he's going to trade franchise icon and captain at the time, Mike Richards. And he's also going to trade his buddy, Jeff Carter. Sends Richards to the Kings, gets obviously your old buddy Wayne Simmons back in that deal as the main crux of it. Moves Carter to Columbus, getting Voracek into the fold, who was a good player at the time. But I remember Paul Holmgren, the then GM of the Flyers, saying, Steve, at the press conference announcing those two deals, they came on the same day, I believe. He said, I don't know if we'll be better, but we'll be different. And that's kind of the risk you take, right? Like that, like if they trade Mitch, unless they're getting a huge stud defenseman back the other way, I don't necessarily know that the Leafs would be better. They obviously would be different.
That's the thing, man. Like it's not, it's two different conversations, right? It's next year versus this year. This year, you take Mitch Marner off the team, you stink. Obviously, like that's the beginning, middle, and end of it. But you look at the Leafs, and they have a lot of the same problems the Oilers do. Except I think their decor is better. It's still not great. And their goaltending is better. It's still not the best. It's been adequate. Wool was probably unsustainably good. Samsonov was unsustainably bad. And now they've kind of met in the middle a little bit. And they're providing the kind of goaltending that allows you to be in the fight every night, right? So all these Zadorov rumors and Tanev rumors and, getting a little bit more snot, improving on D. That's what I've got my eye on right now. But like, you're not talking about Zadorov and Tanev if you're talking about moving Mitch Marner. You're talking about a franchise-altering defenseman.
I'm telling you right now, the Leafs are going to get both these guys. It's going to happen.
Both Marner and Nylander, or both Zadorov and Tanev?
Zadorov and Tanev.
Okay.
And what I want to know from you, though, how much better will these two guys make this defense?
I think they'll make it decently better. It'll make them meaner back there.
Yep.
And like you saw like Luke Schenn wasn't even excellent as a Leaf, but he provided he provided something they lacked so bad. And that's really all Zadorov needs to do. Like, just be solid. Don't screw up back there. Be an arsehole, Tanev, they need a puck mover and someone on the right who's not TJ Brody.
Well, I think he's going out.
Yeah, I keep hearing yes and I keep hearing no.
Okay, well, who would it take? Who would it take? Let's play fan call in here. Steve from Whitby or wherever you are.
Ajax.
These days. I knew out there.
There you go.
So, well, the thing that I pitched a couple of weeks ago, which now can't happen, was to make the money work, you would do Klingberg and maybe Liljegren along with probably something like an Abruzzese and a Minton, unfortunately, in order to get Zadorov and Tanev. More realistically,
the money's easier now with Klingberg on LTIR.
The money is easier with Klingberg on LTIR. So more realistically, and I don't know why this hasn't been talked about more and why I haven't talked about it more. I keep keeping it to myself. I need to say this on my own podcast, stupid. But what makes sense is conditional draft picks going to Calgary based on whether or not these players resign. Resign.
Yeah.
No, they're just done with hockey. No,
they're retiring.
It's got to be something like, not to go this extreme, but like the Pronger deal from Edmonton to Anaheim, where the Oilers got a draft pick and there was a conditional draft pick attached to that. So it was we get a first, and if we make it to the Stanley Cup final, we get another first. So maybe it's something like, for Calgary to protect themselves, if they're going to retain salary, especially, they get a concrete draft pick, non-negotiable, and then if one or both of these guys re-signs with Toronto, they get an additional draft pick. There still probably needs to be money moved out. I haven't done the exact math. If
Brody's involved, you're okay.
If Brody, but I don't even think you need to shed that, because if you take Zadorov and Tanev's salaries and you cut them in half, so if Calgary retains half, it adds up almost exactly to John Klingberg's salary.
Interesting.
It's very interesting, isn't it? And Klingberg signed for 4.15. How'd they come up with that number? It's I think there's something there. And like Eric Francis the other day when he tweeted about Nick Abruzzese potentially going to Calgary and joining his former university teammate Matt Coronado. Like, I read that tweet as a canary in the mine. Like that is, someone from Calgary floating that idea out there and seeing how fans react. I think
as a Leaf fan, I don't care. That's fine. Go ahead.
It's going to be the Leafs.
Like, I'm thinking they're going to have to give up a Robertson. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know about that. I don't know because if you look at Zadorov, like if you want to dig into the analytics and stuff, he's actually not that good in his own zone. But what he is an intimidating. I'm glad you brought up Luke Shen because he's just a younger Luke Shen, a guy that can get the job done. It's not going to necessarily look pretty, but boy, can he catch people with their heads down and really set a tone. That's what Zadorov is. Like, that's what you're getting. You're not getting any offense from him, although he does have a big shot, but he's not going to provide you a lot of points. He's going to be a guy that makes other teams forwards keep their head on a swivel. Tanev is actually a little better defensively than Zadorov is if you look at his numbers and can move the puck a little better. Zadorov
skater,
could be accused,
for sure.
He's a way better skater than Zadorov, and Zadorov could be accused at times of looking like he's hanging onto a hand grenade, but he's a big, tough, mean SOB, and he'll finish guys hard into the wall. Like, that's what he's going to do. So I've seen a lot of like, the Leafs are going to have to give up this prospect and Minton and this guy. I don't necessarily know that that's true because keep in mind too, both those guys' deals, like Steve said, are expiring, and that's a piece of leverage that the Leafs have to their advantage too. Not to mention the fact that everybody knows Zadorov wants out.
Exactly.
And like, it's going to be Toronto. Like they keep up these rumors. This team is interested. This team's
no, they're not.
His agent already blew it. Dan Milstein already blew it.
Exactly.
He put it on Twitter. He put hashtag Leafs.
Yeah, he did.
He blew it.
What's your opinion of that, Steve? Like, that's a weird one.
It is a weird one. It is delightfully Dan. It was him. It was his sort of Alan Walsh sword moment. But I don't think an agent does that out of nowhere.
No way.
I think it's been weeks and possibly months of frustration that led up to that. And like,
he said that in drafts for a couple weeks.
Yeah, like, and Zadorov hasn't been very good since that. I mean, why would he risk injuring himself? But full marks to him for at least staying in the lineup and everything. It's great theater. And the Leafs are not usually on the good end of this. So it's that part of it has been delightful. And what you were saying with Zadorov's warts, like, that's part of the reason why I would be so much more comfortable with getting those two guys if you didn't have to move off of Brody to do it, because then you can have a top four of like Riley, Tanev, McCabe, Brody, Zadorov, whoever you want, like Zadorov, Liljegren, Zadorov,
that's what I'm saying. It sounds a lot better, doesn't it?
Timmins.
It sure does.
It sounds a lot better. And with
Langston,
Brody, his wife's going through MS, I know, so he may not want to go anywhere either. So,
I didn't know that.
That's true. Yeah.
Sportsnet did I know you don't watch them anymore, but they did a little feature on it. I don't watch them either.
Okay. Anyway.
It's too bad, but she's battling MS, so Brody may not want to go anywhere. I don't know if he's got the right to say that, but we'll see. Maybe, like, when you talk about Leaf Calgary Flame trades, obviously you think of big trades. Maybe they can, like, is Markstrom out there? Like, is he a better upgrade than Samsonov?
Why stop there, Clark?
Yes.
Is Kadri coming back as a third line center? Like, let's just make a big deal. Let's do another
Keith Ollie, Freddie Sjustrom.
Oh yeah,
Come on,
let's go.
Mares.
He's Ollie. Oh boy.
Remember that? We thought he
Jamie
was the
McCowan.
next big thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
No, I mean,
I don't think Calgary
Markstrom's-
would ever do it, but
Markstrom's such a. This league is full of. Well, I'm sure you know this, Clarkey, as a goalie. This league is full of some of the strangest goalies I've ever watched. Like they can't decide if their Vezina candidates are awful on any given night.
Jack Campbell.
Oh my goodness! There's a guy who won 11 straight games in the NHL, and Markstrom was a Vezina nominee, and then he was dreadful. Like he was one of my favorite train wrecks to watch last year. Just every time he tried to play the puck was a terrible decision. But have you seen his numbers this year? He's good.
He's real good.
He's good. Even though the Flames aren't being very good, he's good. I really don't know if the Flames can win that sort of deal. I mean,
I agree.
It'd be very interesting. But like I feel like
it depends on how much youth the Leafs want to give up, I guess.
Well, and they'd
like
have to have a lot of faith in that.
Robertson in there is a first in there.
Early,
like
you'd either have to give up a really good. You'd either have to give up a really good prospect, regardless of position, or Joseph Wool, and
they can't do that.
I'm not into that. I also don't know if they really need to do that on account of like. I think one of the more underrated things about the Leafs organization is their goalies. A lot of them are in Europe, so people don't know about them as much. But this Akhtumov kid, I think, is going to be really good. Hildeby is a really compelling prospect. Obviously, Wool, you want to see what he has left. And then, like, it feels like the cupboard was so bare at that position for so long. And one of the things Dubas actually did pretty well in his tenure is he just gathered enough darts at the goalie position, and like one of them's going to hit. And this wasn't officially one of his picks because it was 2016, but Joseph Wool so far has been a hit. Like that's a hit. Like I don't know if he's elite or anything, but he's been an NHL quality goalie. That's a hit.
Yeah.
If he hits on one of Hildeby or Akhtumov or even Peksa or whatever, that's a huge boost for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for Calgary too, I doubt they'd want a goalie back because they got that Dustin Wolf kid, and he's the best goalie in the AHL. So it probably would be a position player. Steve, I want to end off by asking you about this Ryan Reaves situation. I mean, I don't know. Like, can they even put him back in the lineup? Like, this is looking like a bit of a tough 3-year commitment that I don't think any of us thought he would play out those full 3 years. He will end up in the booth someday, but what's your opinion on this? Like, he's really not. I don't know what this.
I think he's got a little sore hip. I think he's got a sore hip. Or something.
He's got a bruise.
Yeah.
Clarkey's saying that in jest, but like I've been saying that for weeks. Like, because I was willing to defend Ryan Reaves in the first couple games because he was such a factor. Like he was running around out there and running guys over, and he's yet to start a fight as a Leaf. He's been in 2 fights and he didn't instigate either of them. There was the Jack Eye one, and that was after a big hit. And there was the Foligno one, and that was after a big hit.
Yeah.
And where'd he go? Where'd he go? Like he wasn't even throwing hits. He wasn't doing anything.
Nothing.
So like, I know he's not that great at this whole hockey thing, but I was willing to look past it because you get Ryan Reaves, you take the good with the bad. You know what you're getting and you know what he brings in X and Y and Z. He's not doing any of the things that you would even expect out of this guy. Oh, I would have gone after Brad Marchand, but I didn't have a shift out against him. Who cares? Grab someone else. You're the sheriff.
Exactly. Who cares? Exactly.
What are you doing? Like, so to me, he's either got to be hurt or he's like the biggest snake oil salesman in the sport. What gives me a little bit more peace with Ryan Reaves is, as bad as that contract is, and maybe I'm deluding myself, Someone's going to want this player.
Yeah. Oh, I don't disagree. Yeah.
He's been doing it for years. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
No, I got one better.
Imagine. Clarkey,
I got a better
one. I put my head on the pillow and I say my prayers and drink my milk and eat my vegetables. I can imagine it.
I got a better one.
What's the better one? What? Edmonton. Okay. Your team?
Could you imagine
Reaves and
Ryan
Wilson?
Reaves playing with Tom Wilson?
Of course I can.
Oh my God. I don't want it to happen, by the way. Like, that's not what I'm saying. It would be peak NHL comedy. It would be. I would need them to make a sketch comedy show of the two of them.
Shoving buddies.
They hate each other. Oh God. Yeah. Rock'em sock'em robots out there, dude. Oh yeah, God. Yeah. They fight in practice the first day. It would be epic. I don't know.
I would want the first time I'd ever want televised practice.
Absolutely.
What do you mean first time? Didn't you watch Leafs TV for years? We tell.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Come on.
Oh yeah, it was. I bet it drew big numbers, eh?
It did. Yeah, it really did. The biggest number I think was when there was a squirrel loose in the Air Canada Center for about 20 minutes. We watched the squirrel running around the ACC. Yeah, it was classic.
Hey,
It was classic.
There you go.
Yeah. I think they should just to wrap things up with the way Edmonton's playing. I think they should go to Marner and say, "Hey, would you go to Edmonton?" And he's thinking, "Oh man, I could play with McDavid. Yeah, I'd go to Edmonton. Yeah, I would." And then you trade him for McDavid. Like, let's just find a way. Because McDavid's coming here anyway. When his contract's up, he's coming to Toronto. So.
Amen, Clarkey.
He's coming, Ryan.
I doubt it, but
he's coming. Amen. He's coming. He's like Johnny T. He wants to play here. Well, he certainly doesn't want to play at Edmonton right now. That's for
sure. He'll be in Tampa.
Be in Tampa. Leaf fans took a lot of crap for saying, "Oh, he looks so sad." Like the day he was drafted, I was in the building that day. He was pissed.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I have a funny story for you. My old broadcasting partner and longtime voice of the Guelph Storm before I took over, Steve Fitzsimmons, he told me once in the media room, and it was right after that draft lottery. So it was fairly late in the season. And he was talking to a bunch of OHL scouts and NHL scouts from other teams. And he loudly proclaimed, he was like, "Well, it is a joke. I feel bad for Connor because Edmonton doesn't deserve him." Standing right behind him was Kevin Lowe.
Oh,
whoops.
Kevin left. Kevin left the room. He knew he was outgunned. It was very, very funny. So
he knew.
And he's
how's the next book coming along?
He's probably right. Yes, another book.
It's supposed to be a secret.
Oh, it's a secret.
No, it's okay.
I'm just assuming there's a book coming. That's all. I don't know anything. We haven't talked.
Oh, well, if I were to write one, I would have been almost done fairly recently.
Okay. Very good.
We'll leave it
Is
at
my
that.
name going to be mentioned in this one or no?
Clarkey,
I can put you in the like thank yous if you want.
Yeah,
it's not about my life. I haven't lived enough life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, since the last one, I'd like imagine having 2 biographies by the time you're 35. What a jerk. No,
yeah, Clarkey, one's good for you. Okay?
I know it's good enough. It's good enough. Yeah.
All right. SDPN. Look them up on YouTube. They're on Twitter. They got a bunch of great shows. The CJ Show, Agent Provocateur's great with Alan Walsh. And of course, the OG stuff, the Steve Dangle podcast with that guy right there, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, Jesse Blake. Check it out, guys, man. They're doing great work over there. Dangle, thanks for doing this, brother. It's always a pleasure, dude.
Thank you. Reaves to the Flames. E5
for a first round pick.
Oh, the E5. Oh, that's no, right. Not that again.
We'll E5. Be right back. When we come back, Clarkey and I will unveil, as we always do, our Conway Furniture Couch Potatoes of the Week next here on Instigating. Wrapping things up this week on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury with our friends at Conway Furniture, our friends over at Larry Hudson Chevrolet, Buick GMC, and of course, Listowel Squash Courts. Thanks to our great guests this week, Alex McGillivray of Team Canada Softball, bronze medalists at the U18 Men's Championships, and of course, of the Listowel Cyclones, and our friend Steve Dangle. Go check out SDPN for for all your great Leafs and NHL news. Clarkey, welcome back, man. From
Thanks.
Jamaica,
Jamaica,
good
fresh.
stay on the beach. Hey, what's up? It's time
Fresh
for a
from
couch
Jamaica.
potato. You were a couch potato for a good while there.
Yeah.
And I can't completely say that. You did make an appearance on last week's show, and I commend you for that. Hardworking guy. So not a total couch potato, but it is your turn.
You should have seen me later that night.
Yeah,
we had a little event, and there was a live band there, and they took some requests later on in the night, and they played a Lionel Richie song, and I was right up there singing along with them.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. He was very impressed that I knew all the words.
I need you to lead us on our journey here, as you always do. Let's get into
I mentioned
Conway Furniture Couch Potatoes. Go ahead.
So I mentioned this guy with Dangle, and I was considering him as a couch potato, but it's tough for me to put a guy like Matt Sundin as a couch potato. But boy, that pregame speech before
disrespectful.
Hey boys, let's make us proud. Yarn Kruk, Lagerson, Domi, and it was like the worst. Was that supposed to be inspiring?
Domi, though.
Was that supposed to be inspiring? Because it wasn't. It wasn't a pick me up speech. Anyway, he was just there to do the opening line. However, we're going to go back, and I think you'll be impressed that I'm actually using a basketball clip this week.
Wow!
Right? Wow is right. And this was on Wednesday night, and Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio is getting booed by the fans in San Antonio, who he quit on a few years back after some success.
With 8 points tonight, 3 of 5 from the floor.
So all of a sudden here, if we can hear it, the coach for the San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich, here he is.
All the booing, let these guys play. It's got no class. It's not who we are. Knock off the booing.
Knock off the booing. Well, Mr. Popovich, you are my couch potato of the week, because that was one of the most ridiculous requests ever. When you pay $200, $300, $400 to go to a game, you have every right to express your concern and boo as a fan. You cheer, you boo. That's what a fan is all about. They're not booing. They're not throwing snowballs at a Santa Claus like this. Like, who was it? The Philadelphia.
The Flyers. And it was actually batteries that they were throwing at him.
Yeah. It's not that. They're booing. It's innocent.
Yeah, I commend you again for a great couch potato, because look, we all love Pop, and Pop's a legend.
Pop's done now. He's a little past his prime.
He shouldn't have done that. It was weird.
It was unbelievable.
It would have been
this is a coach of a team grabbing the mic right in the middle of free throws by Kawhi Leonard and saying, "Don't boo this guy, please." Come on.
It would have been one thing if he had done it after the game and been like, I didn't like that the fans were booing our old buddy Kawhi, but to grab the in-house mic, I've never seen that before.
No, I've never seen it either. And it was oh my God. Bizarre. And then he said after, "Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear."
Whatever,
just
Pop.
Wanted to be the center of attention. That's all.
Yeah, Timmy Duncan's not in town anymore. With Manu Ginobili, you're just trying to make it all about you. Yeah, that was goofy. And it's standard fare. The guy requested to leave. He helped them win a title. Yeah. And then he left and made it very public that he wanted to leave. And typically, when that happens, the fans will boo you. It's
and I don't understand. I think it's hilarious. I think it's absolutely hilarious that the New York Islander fans still boo John Tavares and say, "We don't need you." Well, apparently they do, because they've been pretty crappy since he left. So I just think it's fun. I think it's fun. It's part of the game. It's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah, man.
Come
on.
And anyway, and another honorable mention, another one other honorable mention this week for my couch potato, and that's the schedule maker in the NHL. No games Tuesday, no games Thursday. I get it. It's Thanksgiving. I get it. But other leagues
did you see this thing where apparently only 3 NHL buildings were available for those days? Apparently,
and have 3 games.
Well, they could, but there's 3 teams, so they could have had 1 game. And Vancouver was one of them.
Well,
So I don't know why they
you
couldn't
said
have
three
had
arenas. We could have had 3 games.
No, like 3 buildings, meaning 3 teams would have been available to play.
Right. So you could have had 3 games.
Well, you could have had 1 game on the one night.
Well, hold on. Ryan, no. If there's 3
Simple
buildings
math.
available, then each one of those 3 buildings could have been used.
What I mean, though, is only those teams were available to play.
Well, why?
Because the other buildings were.
But you're going to play on the road. Like, okay, say Toronto was available, then pick Montreal and play. Anyway,
which they weren't apparently. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Kiss was supposed to play, I think, and that was canceled. So
it was. Paul Stanley got the flu.
Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Honorable mention to the
Toronto.
NHL schedule maker, because like Thanksgiving, I get it. It's Thanksgiving.
No,
but,
I know.
I want a hockey game to watch every night. Every night there should be a hockey game. Anyway.
Yeah,
okay, what's yours? Couch potato.
Okay, my couch potato for Conway Furniture. Our friend, congratulations. This is a positive couch potato. This is a guy that we love here on this show. He's a good guy. He calls you the commissioner all the time. And we got to give some love to our buddy Steve McAllister. Steve McAllister coaching the Huron Bruce Blizzard to the Wingham Silver Stick title. Congratulations, Stevie Mac. How about that? Come on, Clark. You got to give a round of applause.
This has been a big year for Steve. He's got a hole in one. This has been a big year. There's time for me still then, right? Like when I'm 10 years older and get up to Steve's age, I'll be right there.
Stevie the Ace McAllister is now Stevie Silver Stick champion.
Wow.
McAllister. How about that?
Wow.
How about that? Congratulations to the Huron Bruce Blizzard under 18s and our friend Steve. Silver Stick, they're going to go and represent the Wingham region. Head coach.
He was head coach. Like he was in charge.
Wow. In charge, dude.
Wow.
Running things.
Speaking of in charge,
when Gary Bettman retires,
I'll tell you.
Call our friend Steve.
I've totally lost my train. Oh no, there it is. Congratulations to this has got to be one of the best jobs in sports. The bench coach for the New York Mets, John Gibbons. Good for Gibby. And like that's got like you just sit back, you have no pressure.
Where his career started.
All you do is every once in a while you go, why don't you try to do a hit and run here? Like there's nothing to do. Like you have no pressure. Like no one's going to say, "Oh, they lose. They got to fire the bench coach."
He'll be a beauty.
Good for Gibby. Good for Gibby.
That's where his career started. So good for him. Yeah. And I would like to mention I did beat our friend Al at squash again. So and it was a good one. So really good one.
I played Tuesday night too, and I had a pretty good night. So
you can ask him about it. All right. Remember, you can visit our friends at Conway Furniture, and you can be a couch potato too. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Okay,
that's right. And
you can go see them. Highway 86, east end of Listowel, Clarkey, and
on Highway 23, the north end of Listowel.
Yep,
Larry Hudson,
1000 Wallace Avenue.
Black Friday sale held over for one more week, so come on down. We're clearing out the 23s. Lots of action there. It's been a good week. They're moving fast.
Deals
you still have time. The deals are hot, sizzling.
They are hot. And you can visit our friends at the Listowel Squash Courts too and join up and become a member and beat the crap out of me because I'm still not very good. And
that's what we should do.
Al.
Next time next new member gets to play Ryan Drury.
Make you feel really good about yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
That'll be your first
good
match.
about ourselves. We feel good about ourselves because you guys watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. Hey, that's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. You can follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. And remember, you can find the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps, including Spotify and Apple. What else do you want? You can find us everywhere. Thanks to Alex McGillivray. Thanks to our buddy Steve Dangle. Thanks to our great friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, the Listowel Squash Courts. I'm Ryan Drury. That's Clarkey. Instigating. We'll be back next week.
Ooh.